to have quite a lot of agreements created, right? And then you don't want to be skipping on your legal budget as well. So those are kind of things you have to consider.
Very interesting angle. Unique. This whole talk of licensing music, licensing videos, like firstly, it still seems like a vague talk around, especially the admission angle, especially in Nigeria and Africa. Could you help us?
I think it's okay.
That was just
yes, boss.
Could you help us demystify your concept of licensing music for animation projects?
Okay, yeah, so licensing music for animation projects is not really different from a film project itself, a sport project itself. It's all within the scope of licensing. But when it comes to animation, I think the creative direction is very, very different. So the first thing you look at is, who is my audience? Who are the people that I'm preparing this song for? I remember then as a young kid, we were playing PES back then, and remember those songs we were playing with, like when you defeat your brother, and those songs, you're like, let's go again, and formation is a particular song that's actually playing. So to a large extent, it's more about the creative process and the marketing strategy.
Okay.
The marketing strategy. So I'm going to paint a very small picture. One of the things that what Disney did in, I think, 1957 or thereabout was to look at how it can tap from every possible asset. So you look at music. Yes, we want to have music for film. What should be the purpose of this music for film? I said, okay, prior to this animation film or this project coming out, let's release a soundtrack album that they can use to anticipate that something is actually happening. FIFA released theirs about 2 weeks before they released the existing game, that should be FIFA 22.
Yeah.
So it's a thing, how can we use this as a kind of publicity strategy? So prior to doing that, they look at those songs, look at the age group. We're trying to target, let's say Gen Z, between the age of, let's say 14, or let's say 12 to 24. You want to target that age group, look at what kind of music are these guys actually listening to. In Nigeria, for example, now we are doing Afrobeat every now and then. Now, like it's very difficult for me to sit down and tell a 12-year-old that, oh, there's a genre of music called Apala. There's something like, apart from cavemen that brought island back, it's very difficult for them to actually resonate with the concept of island and every other thing. So they look at that particular age group and what kind of music that they can easily vibe to on the spot.
I'll put vibe killer there.
That's the biggest song for me. Patriotic
for that generation.
So when they sit down and look at the creative direction, then they hire the service of the music supervisor. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we're not right here. We don't have enough music supervisors for now. Or we don't have any. Yeah, it's so bad actually, and I can imagine how difficult it is getting to that space because you must have a good knowledge of licensing, you must have a good knowledge of the creative side. So when they sit down, like, okay, yeah, so we've been able to have a creative direction and they have music supervisor, so there's what we call music spotting. So at that point, they're like, oh, where are those places in the animation project that we need music? So immediately they do that, the next thing is, what kind of music are we going to license? So licensing is simply the permission to use music. Okay. Let's not break it too hard. Just the permission to use music. So at that point when they decide to, okay, we want to use XYZ music, it's the job of the music supervisor to tell you that, okay, this music is going to go, this music is not going to go. Because when we talk about music, I keep on saying that the artist is never the sole owner of any musical work. There are some work that we may have up to 6 right holders.
Are you serious?
So that means if you're going to use that work, the 6 of them must rightly approve and say yes. So imagine you want to pay, for example, let's say 5k USD for a particular song. And I know that, okay, I don't have much percentage in this song, so that means I'll be getting like 200 UK USD. I'm like, US USD rather. I'm like, no, I'm going to find a way to fight. So instead of you saying you want to pay us an entire $4,000, I'm going to push for $8,000 so that my share can go.
So that will present another challenge.
So most times, that's how we talk about, oh, they want to get music, they want to do this, they keep on like, oh, I want to go for the biggest songs in town. It's not the biggest songs in town. Like most artists are now project artists, they keep on releasing albums. So call for those songs that are not really popping and be a tool.
Yeah, for
so actually give you that publicity, because back to that Walt Disney strategy is always a tool for publicity, and also a tool when the project has kind of gone, people have kind of forgotten about it. It's also a way to bring to their remembrance that, oh, this project was great so and so year, 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. So now back to the licensing process. We reach out to music, we have the musical composition, and we have the master recording itself. So the master recording is the one we can hear when we open our Spotify app, open our Apple Music.
Yeah.
That's the final one we can hear. But the musical composition is the lyrics,
Okay.
the music in its raw form. So the largest thing, a producer controls that, the songwriter controls that. So it's always managed by what we call the publisher. So when you sit down and say, okay, you want to use okay, let me say for example, Bloody Samaritan.
Yeah.
The first that comes to your mind, oh, this song belongs to Maven. But there's possibility that there's a producer that is not signed to Maven that actually worked on that song. So the first thing we do is what we call a music search. So what's a music search? A music search is you trying to take effort to know who are the right holders to that particular music. So when you sit down and break down that, okay, this person wrote on this song, this person is the producer on this song, so I'm going to be dealing with 6 different parties. 6 different parties on the publishing side. On the master recording side, and you have to deal with 2 people. That's a situation whereby the artist is signed to a label, and the artist is no longer signed to a label.
Oh.
Like she left the label.
Yeah.
As I when she released the song, she was signed to the label. So at this point, she's no longer with the label. So there's a question of who owns the master rights. So to a large extent, the label may own part ownership, the artist may own part ownership.
And
So
they
that
have to
means
deal with both of them.
you have to deal with both of them. So it's a very, very long process.
I put it to you now. There's no demystifying.
That's why I just really break it down a bit.
Because the deeper you go, the more complicated it is.
Yeah, that's why it's always advisable to get music supervisors. Yeah, the ones that know that, okay, you want this song, don't go for this song, go for this other song. Why? Because it may not be 2 parties there.
Yeah.
So you may want to like, okay, the creative direction is let us get a hit song. And they're like, no, your target audience is people between the age of 12 to 18. Why not go for the publishing part so that you can get somebody do a cover recording?
Yeah.
Because once you get the musical composition, you can clear it. So we do a cover recording, meaning that you don't need to go to the master side of the label and the artist to reduce that tension so that you can make sure that the process is kind of fast tracked.
That's another entirely different angle. A cover.
A cover, yeah.
Wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah, cover. It's one of the most complicated part of the licensing process because people feel that, oh, a cover, you need to speak to the artist first. No, you need to speak to the songwriters, the producer, the ones that you speak to. So there are situations whereby the artist is not the songwriter. Yeah, people don't admit it actually. People don't admit it because we are in the back end, so we see the song like, oh, this is the biggest song. I'm like, okay, yes, the biggest song. This person is a good writer. Yes, he's a good writer. We don't need to say anything, but we know. We know. So to a large extent, these guys have to be compensated. Like, not just give them beans and water and say it is what we want you to do. You need to like make sure that you negotiate with each of them. And still part of the music search. So each of them has a percentage of ownership. So if all of them don't approve, using that song is an infringement.
Wow. So there is no such thing in those of music ownership where you say, just like a company board and say the majority shareholders carry the okay, so you own 30%, I own like and just override the guy that owns 2%. Really?
It doesn't work. So that's one of the things. So let's fast track a little bit. I think we're breaking it down. Right? Because it can be so technical. So when you get the approval from them and you negotiate on budget and everything, so the next thing is to proceed to use the song. And no, proceed to issue a license request. A license request simply means you are trying to break down everything as regards the usage of the song. How many scenes? What's the description? There's some people that don't want their song to be used for, let's say, pornography, let's say, sexual scene and everything. There's some people that don't want their songs to be associated with things like alcohol.
Yeah.
It's all yes, you have to break everything down, license request that, oh, this is what I want to do, this is the project, this is the project I'm associated with, this is the name of the producer. Because there's some producers that are kind of blacklisted and you don't want to have anything to do with them. So you need to be very, very careful. These are things that a silly mistake can have the entire project being brought down. Netflix, for example. Because when we talk about laws, now corporate laws are not things that and they just tell us that, oh, they exist. It's right, like if there's just the one complaint, the first thing they have to do is to bring the project down.
Wow.
So they don't want to hear whether this person is wrong, this person is right. The first thing is bring the project down. On Spotify, if you just issue a query that, this person actually sampled my song, the first thing is to bring the project down. So nobody wants to play with copyright at this age and time. Like, no matter how dull you are, you should at least go and read and know what am I doing. Yes, so that's the license request. So after the licensing request, you negotiate, you make payments on both sides. The next thing is now called cue sheet creation. Yeah, many people miss this part, and the question is, in Nigeria, we don't have collecting societies, we don't have anything, so we can just play around cue sheet. But now everything is digital. So when someone told me that, people don't collect royalties, I'm like, you don't know. Don't say people don't collect. We see everything, we see the money. So you don't say, so when it comes to cue sheet creation is just a document that's actually highlighting all the songs that were played in the particular project. Sometimes they also include the score, they include the duration, they include the publisher and everything, including the IPI number to ensure that on the long run, these people are also collecting back-end royalties. So for example now, if I connect to the internet, I'm playing a game on my phone, and the song is being played at that moment, that's a performance. Yes, you receive the right to use the song, no problem. But now someone is playing the game and the song is being played at that moment, so it's a performance. So that person deserves to get royalties. So if we're looking at it as animation films too, the person is streaming on Netflix. At that point, that person is entitled to performance royalties. So who is the burden on the animator or the burden is not on the animator, the burden is not even on is on the streaming platform. So that's why you need that cue sheet. That cue sheet is one that you are assigning the burden now to the streaming platform. That these people are songs that are being streamed on your platform as a form of performance. Make sure that their royalties are being paid. So after we talk about cue sheet, I think the last thing is credits. Last thing is credit. Unfortunately, there's no really there's no really rule to it, but one thing you need to make sure everybody is properly credited. So one of the easy ways is just to say, written by the songwriter, the producer is a writer in this case. When it's on the publishing side, it's called a writer. Then you put, performed by, that's the artist. In situation whereby we have, let's say, cover recording. So those two people you called to perform that song, those guys will not come in as a performer. They will not have concept by, so that means who gave you this work? So that in case somebody come back to attack you and I did not get my share and everything, so you can always say, this particular company gave it to me. So there's a company that serves as a one-stop shop. For example, if it's a Maven project, we can actually reach out to all the songwriters involved. So we can take up that responsibility and say, you want to use this song? We're going to make sure that we speak to all rights holders in 24 hours and have the song cleared for use.
Nice.
So, but we don't have all companies that have that structure of being a one-stop shop for you to be able to pick up a music and use. So most times, we always advise people get the service of a music supervisor. There are some songs that is a no-go area. Why? Because of metadata issues, songwriters, there's a split, there's a problem. So to not just being on the visual project side, that's as an animator or maybe the creative director, you may not know these things. There's some cases that are very, very complicated. It's the same way, when we talk about music, we're talking about intellectual property. It's something as real estate. There's some places that nobody will tell you, no go and buy that here. Why things like money there, things like different. So it's certain as music. There's some places that will tell you that's a no-go area. Just leave it. There's some places where you tell people, I have a budget of XYZ. They'll tell you that if you like yourself, so that they don't frustrate your life. Just go to another person and get that song and things like that. So I think I've been able to really break down because of my sense. I try to be so simple as possible.
Well, good job, Bill. Good job. Thank you very much. I'm coming back to you, Chiklen. For an animation producer, a film producer, you're thinking about songs. Now it says you should consult a music supervisor. Okay, so now let me say music supervisor is dealing with this. What are the elements or factors or that you consider before you say, on the creative side, of course, and say, I like this music should be on this same, this music should be on the same. What are the factors?
So like we always say, story is king. But in this case, I think the most important thing for any project is control. Control. As a producer, a director, you want to have control over what you are creating. Now, one of the reasons why a music supervisor is so important is that a music supervisor has roots in the music industry.
Yeah.
A music supervisor is not a film professional. This is someone that has worked in music publishing, has worked in record labels. So this person has all those connections and is in the best position to make those calls and say, okay, I need this, what can you do for me? But not every producer has, to be honest, the budget to afford the music supervisors that have that kind of reach. That's one. The second thing is that it's a lot more sensible from a business point of view to create creative work that you earn from, as opposed to licensing something that you have to keep paying for. So there's a reason why, if you look at the most successful Disney, all of these films, you very, very rarely see them license pop music, except it's for specific, very, very, very specific creative intent. But the music that actually drives a lot of these stories is original and it's intentional, because
The film does not want us to make money. I don't understand. The record label side. The record label side. The want us to make money.
I'm sorry, I'm coming to that. And it's because they want control.
Yeah.
One. But also, like he said, they don't want wahala.
Exactly.
They don't want anybody to wake up 2 years down the line. And so I'll give you a typical example. If a Netflix production is licensing your music, there's a clause in that contract that says that they have the rights. I can't remember how it's worded precisely, but it basically says they can use this music on any medium forever. That's the gist of it. I can't remember how it's worded legally, but
The point of it is,
as in,
they can use it.
they can use it forever. Like, you can never call them and say, yo, so I want to increase, you guys are now streaming in VR, and I think I should, that's it. You get, so it comes down to control. So if you are let me use a project that I actually worked on, Lady Buckets and the Monthly Monsters. So the film was already in production. Like, they had recorded all the dialogue. I think they were already in animation. And the guy that was scoring, Ava, is my friend. I think he's speaking tomorrow.
Okay, it's tomorrow, yeah.
I think he's speaking tomorrow. They now said that they needed, the plan for the film was that they were going to have a bunch of original songs. And these songs needed to be produced. So Ava says, okay, my forte is scoring. Let me call somebody that actually produces songs. So he calls me and we have a conversation. So they already had a bunch of songs that they had written that needed to be produced. But there were about 2 other songs that they had the idea of the song and what the song was supposed to do for the story. And I ended up having to write and produce one of those songs. Now, they own it. Well, at least they own the master recordings, which is what ends up being used in the film. Now, obviously, as a writer, if another project wants to use that song, they can, like he said, record a cover. But the producers of the Bucket and the Monthly Monsters are never going to have any issues with copyrights and all of that because they paid for everything upfront. That's what I mean when I say it's about control. Now, if you are a Disney or a Warner or a Sony Pictures Entertainment, you have the clouds to call up basically anybody and say, we want to use your song in our film. And
we'll jump up.
Well, almost anybody. I mean, there are some songs that are almost impossible to clear, no matter who you are. I think the Beatles fall into that category. It's notoriously difficult to get the Beatles.
Is because that's that big, or?
Well, for one of them is dead.
I see.
They are not dealing with one person. They're dealing with the state.
Wow.
So from a production, from a creative point of view, it's about control, and it's about being able to have recurrent revenue from that project. So you can have your official soundtrack album up on Apple Music, and guess who is getting paid from that? You, the producer of the film. People are getting paid royalties, but you own the master recording, and that's a huge chunk of whatever revenue that those pieces of music are making. So
interesting. That's quite interesting. I was going to ask you.
I was actually going to say something just to the point that both my co-panelists have made. We also need to consider the stage we are in the entertainment industry. You know, I really liked what the CEO of Kugale was talking about. That look, right now, if you want to do anything big, it's going to cost you quite a lot of money. So collaboration is critical. But to his point, DJ Clem's point about, let's be honest, budgets are a major issue, right, in producing. And most, like for my clients, most of them, KAV, the critics, they all use original because in the long, it's just more affordable. Let's just be honest, okay? No one has, inexhaustible budgets. But I do believe that we are still moving. It's not. We're still moving in that direction where we will begin to see more licensing activity domestically. But what I am seeing right now as a lawyer is my clients are saying, okay, we have an animation we want to produce, but this is the artist, the singer-songwriter we want to work with. Most of the time, they're relatively unknown. And it's kind of obvious why they're doing it. But you know what, as legal, we always say, look, you need to make sure that there's some kind of remuneration, even if on quote, oh, they're just doing it for free. You know that, oh, they're just, please, let's still keep this, nice and kosher. So I think we really need to look at where we are right now in the industry. And it's exciting. It means one day we're going to get to a point where licensing will become hopefully as regular as original. But I mean, I'm on the fence. I'm pro licensing, I'm pro original. We as lawyers just have to put the paperwork together to make sure that everything is whichever direction it goes.
Which brings me the question I wanted to ask you.
Go on. Okay.
I was going to ask you about what are the major pitfalls you see when a producer wants to do the licensing with an established artist or label, but it seems like
I think my colleagues have answered fantastically. I mean, he mentioned the need to do the searches. We as lawyers would call it due diligence, but the music supervisor does the due diligence. If you go ahead and you produce your animation and you don't even bother to check this song, oh I like it, or these beats, let's just buy beats. That's something quite popular. Like even the beats you're buying have intellectual property rights attached to it. So everything you do, you really have to clear off. Do you understand? So that the disputes still present and pose an issue if due diligence is not properly conducted from the get-go.
Which Yeah, so that's the major obvious
Yes.
pitfall. Now having answered that, the other option which you have been touting, do your originals, do it yourself.
No, everyone's been opening it. Well, everyone's pushing it.
Yeah. I want to ask you this question now.
Yeah.
We're talking about animation. If you look at a Disney animation and look at the music side,
Yeah.
credits, like
Yeah.
music just keeps growing.
It's
Music
just
credits
long,
just
it's like
keeps growing. It's
endless.
going like I'm like, wow! I didn't even know all these songs like this one I just watched.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
don't you think
That it's nearly impossible to produce all that music by yourself.
Okay, so I mean, collaboration does come in, and like I said, what we see obtainable here is people tend to go for unknowns, or they try and pull in favors because the budget can get quite big. Production is not cheap. If you want to do it to a quality standard, and Africa is on the map now, there's so much exciting things coming out. Your production is your signature. That's what people will, it's your CV. So if you're going to put your name on it, it has to be quality, right? So, I mean, yes, you can't possibly have all the originals done yourself. You may collaborate, but whatever the case may be, I'm agnostic. Whether it's licensing or original, as long as the legal agreements are in place, the split sheets are done, which assigns the royalties proportion, so we know how much each person is getting. That all has to be clearly stated. So things can sometimes go a bit awry when that process isn't handled properly. You forget, I didn't check. There's a co-producer. It's not just the one person I was dealing with. The songwriter. There's like they both alluded to. There's a lot of people it takes to cook that.
Very, 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 very important aspect, because I'm going to say I once knew this guy who was doing this thing, and he wanted music, obviously, and he's a film producer, upcoming, he was doing low budget films and all that, and he was doing the sound, and he wanted the music, and he called someone he knew who used to be a musician, but he struggled to get into the scene, and he didn't, so he just abandoned all his body of work somewhere. Nobody, never played on radio, never played anywhere. He was just I'm done with this music also thing. So this is friend who is doing this into movie now called him and be like, Baba, that your song that year when you release. I just want to put out for this my film. I get out from my laptop. You make a put out. And that guy was like, which one? Okay, I'll put out man. No, just carry go. And something, I was there when that call, something was telling me that this thing won't go nice.
This is not it.
Always put it in writing.
Always put it in writing. Every transaction must have a contract to it, no matter how informal that relationship is, even if you've known yourselves for a long time. And I know the music industry is it's small, it thrives on relationships, but no matter the case.
so that phone call, even if it was recorded, cannot stand the cause? My lord, see the call now.
I mean, evidence they can, but before we get to that point, can we just do things properly? We're trying to inculcate a culture of, proper contracts, due diligence before you contract, know who you're dealing with as well. So
I'm saying this because I know because our industry, the animation industry, even the film industry, to be honest, is still at a stage where a lot of things are not. We don't. This due diligence thing is flies over our head, especially when we're trying to cut costs. And I can really see a lot of production doing things like that, and they will tell you, yes, he has given me his phone. Then by the time I start telling him contacts, he will think it's a big deal. He will start calling money.
Trust me, what you're saying is not far from the truth at all. People actually run away from contracts. They go, no, this is just between friends. Oh no, if I show him a contract, he's going to get scared off. I think we need to get away from that mindset. It's just documenting the terms. That's all that it is. So if anything happens in future, there's a dispute, you can refer to that contract. And another thing I do really want to mention here, whilst I can, is I know people shy away from contracts because they don't really have faith in the legal system. They don't have faith in the court system. But I need to emphasize for the entertainment industry, ADR, alternative dispute resolution, is ideal, where you go into mediation. Something called mediation. Yeah, mediation is a less scary formal approach to litigation.
There's a lot of us who are not lawyers. We don't like that environment.
Oh no. And you don't want to go to court for years, over a dispute over the royalties, etc. So all contracts, regardless whether it's a licensing agreement or it's an original composition agreement, please, they should have these alternative dispute resolution clauses, which basically says if there's a dispute, we can have a friendly sit down, and if that fails, we can go to a mediation center where everything is done, sit down, informal, but it's still recognized by the courts. That will really help this industry. It will take away that lack of trust, but it wouldn't leave us exposed, whereby people don't want to write contracts because they think, oh well, I don't want to end up in court.
Yeah, because thank you. When people see contracts, they are thinking courts. Unique.
Let's standard this down to your own area so that you know that this is Raymond did not bring you out to Kano back Yeah, so we know that African music is big globally. Like anywhere you play, our big stars, the Davido, the Whiskey, all these guys being nominated for all this international stuff, and you just play and everybody like, hey, the vibe to it.
Yeah, sure.
From my perspective, from where I stand, I see this as an opportunity the film industry or the animation industry can take advantage of and be like, okay, if this guy is this big, it means that if I want this my film here to have some popularity in those in the US where they love this guy's song, I can just bring this guy's song into my film, and so that anywhere it's played, even if you are not feeling my film, you can be like, hey, this guy's song, and you can vibe to it, and it makes my film popular also. But our filmmakers and animators have not been taking in that direction. What do you think is chasing them away? Is it that the money?
Let's not go back to budget. Let's touch on budget actually. Let's touch on budget. I understand the fact that the budget is a big factor, but 80% of the time you don't have to just pay one off. You don't have to pay at once. Now we know you have an animation project, and now we have streaming channels now. We have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime and the likes. You know those guys when they want to license the project to them. Now licensing, now we're talking about content, animation content. When you want to license to them, they're going to pay you a particular amount. So at that stage where you are trying to pitch to them, you can pay for the song. It's going to be lower because it's just for the, let's say, film festival. Let's say maybe just you are trying to speak with an investor. You can pay a less fee for that. Then when it gets accepted into the streaming platform, you can pay another fee, or at that same point where you have better cash, you can actually negotiate to use it on all the media platform available now or year after different. When you talk about that, you can talk about that. And so not just when you have this kind of conversation now with the streaming platform, there's what we call valuation, IP valuation. Every now and then, it's this kind of interesting news I'm hearing that Nollywood, the amount they pay for Nollywood movies is actually lower than the amount they pay for, let's say, South Africa, for example. And animation, whether we like it or not, there's possibility of that kind of conversation coming up. That the amount, because now Netflix has games, they have animation, film, they have cartoons and everything. So the time is coming when Netflix will want original African content, and they will pay less. They're already doing it now, that's the thing. I heard about that conversation, but I don't know they've got to that level. They've got to that level. It's here now, amazing. You see what I'm talking about. I think I'm going to get a video about this because I'm trying to do this thing. I don't know why they're running away from budget. So we can just talk about budget. So at that point now, when you want to you want to license your animation project, is that valuation you want to give? Whether we like it or not, music plays a very big role in that valuation. So we're trying to negotiate for a fee. So now I come and tell you that, oh, I have an Arasta song there, I have a Rema song, I have a Davido song there. The way they're going to negotiate will be different from somebody that. So at that point, the negotiation process will be different because now the IP valuation has increased. When we look at streaming platforms like now Spotify, we say a song is big. We look at the streams. Oh, this song has about let's say 1 million streams, and I convert them to a soundtrack album. Because of that artist has released song on a regular, so that artist has been able to establish fan base. So when I release a soundtrack album, I'm going to get more streams based on this artist's existing fan base. So when I point out that, oh, this song has 1 million streams on Spotify, this song is the first song on an animation project that got into the top 10 of Apple charts. When I start giving those factors, the valuation is increasing. So when an Amazon Prime comes to the game and like, oh, we want to have your animation film on our platform, and you start pointing out this already, know that the way they will negotiate with you
will be different.
So that's
so Baba put that song now.
You see, you remember that song, or maybe an originals, for example.
Yeah.
So that's the most time, like I said, instead of you just throwing us and saying, no, let's do everything from scratch. Cover recording can work.
Yeah.
So all of us enjoy from the pie. Let's not forget this, that whether we like it or not, the animation industry, when we talk about the worth of the animation industry, is more, they have more money than the music industry.
Yeah.
People say they know that, oh no, the music industry controls the biggest cash. No.
The animation,
they have more money. Animation have more money, film has more money than the music industry. We talk about, oh yeah, we do streaming. Streaming money is not big compared to what is obtainable in animation. As at 1999, when the sales of CDs stopped drastically and so they're having issues, that's when this is the curve started dropping. We've been trying to get back to that sales of CDs, but we can't go back. This is the digital era, and they cannot pay the way we're paying for CDs. Back then, you sold 1,000 CDs, you can calculate your profit already.
Yeah.
But now, when you look at streaming, no streaming platform is paying up to $1 per stream.
Yeah, it's very low. Spotify is the lowest, isn't it?
Spotify is even trying about 0.0038. So it's pretty low. So we are not there, right? So we need to support ourselves. So we are both in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So have this licensed music in animation. We grow together, we win together. We rise by this other. We rise by this other. So when there's a conversation right there, you can now come in and say, okay, let's do a collaboration. This is going to go out. We know you guys have an established fan base. Maybe because we have more than 2 million followers on Instagram page alone. And looking at the people, our followers are not just people in, let's say, the millennials, the baby boomers. We also have the Gen Z. So it comes across, so we can tell you that, okay, we can work together with you. We can push marketing efforts. Let's not forget I talked about the what, this strategy.
Yeah.
So we're not going back to that, like, oh, the idea is we used to push publicity. When FIFA released the last project, Rema posted, so his fan base saw that, oh, a new song is coming, a new FIFA project edition is coming out. So I'm like, okay, how do I get this? That's publicity already. Every other artist in different region actually posted. And I observed these guys, what they did, they tried to make sure they have somebody from Africa too.
Yeah.
So Rema got 2 times in a row. Fireball got, I think, 2 years ago for his champion song. So I think he was champion, I'm not sure. Okay, Party Starter, yeah, not champion, Party Starter, yeah, it was the first album. So they see it as a strategy. So let's not just see it as budget. See, when it comes to marketing, you have to spend money, right?
It makes sense now because if you have that budget you're looking at, you are not now only looking at the music thing from the angle of music budget. You are looking at your marketing budgets can actually
Get into
it. So
it's an asset. It's a big asset that can generate bigger income. So just invest.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you to choose between the question I asked that to have you tell me where you stand because you're giving yourself away.
So
it's obvious where you stand.
So here's the thing. every song that is licensed started off as an original song. So whether the first time you hear it is in a film or on a radio or on a streaming platform, it was an original art song. So it's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem. There are some songs that the first time we heard them was in an animation project.
Yeah.
And there are some songs that were old, but an animation project brought them to life. I'll give you a very good example. Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. Do you remember Sharp Tale?
Yeah.
There was this version of Three Little Birds that they did, and it was really, really good. So it's a cycle, you know. So I mean, he'll eat too.
Yeah, so we have a question over there. Let's hear it.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Anita Aluya. Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Unique. Yes, because Beverly talked about budgeting, and you talked about licensing. And I got thinking that, what if I have a very small budget, but I go deeper into research? For instance, I can't know a DJ Clem as a top music producer, and I'm in the city, and I wouldn't want to patronize him, right? But what if I know a DJ Clem because of budgeting now against that background, but I have this small budget on me, but I know what to do, and I say, let me take a trip to the interiors, maybe communities and all of that. Then I discover a very good voice, maybe a talent. He or she knows how to sing and even could compose for me. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. I bring back this concept to the studio in the city. I get everything done. I put it into my film, maybe Nigerian Nollywood, for instance. Okay, but the original singer is back in the interiors. She doesn't know anything about how much are you paying me, all of that. Then I go on with my market. I make very big sale with that kind of movie. Now, my question is, would that be just a licensing matter or an exploitation? Because already I'm using the talent of that singer back in the interior to make very big money in the city without approaching a very good music producer like DJ Clem. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, so maybe I have to come back to what we talk about licensing. Licensing, irrespective of the fact that whether it's commercial music, whether it's original, that music is being licensed. So license is the permission to use that music. So now you're talking about this lady in the interior now. You try to have a recording session with her and you proceed to use the music.
Yes.
So the fact that you said
in my movie.
In your movie.
Yes.
So the fact that she actually came to sing, that licensing process has started already because she owned that work.
But
So
she doesn't know anything professionally.
That's your contract to come to
That's a
play.
different issue. That's
That's the contract. That's your contract
That's
come to play
not
now. Yeah, that's your contract come to play. And I said, most of these creatives, we feel that they don't know, but most times they always at the disadvantaged position. Because the company gradually think that you just call somebody, just come in. I know that you have a good voice, you sing the choir, just come and do this. Sometimes it's a wrong exploitation. So most times it's up to us to do the due diligence and okay, I want you in my music, I want you in my movie rather. So I'm going to pay you, but I want to control the master recording. So you can always control it and say this is going to be your project. But at that point, rather than approaching that directly, if you're not a music person, it's always advisable to get a music person. That's all about music supervisors or a licensing professional. They are the ones that will tell you that, okay, this is what you want to do. No problem, I'm going to handle everything. Just tell me what is the music direction like. So in that case, the music supervisor is just is helping the director achieve his vision.
Interesting.
Yeah.
want to
I have a
say
question.
something as
Question
well.
here.
Yes.
To your point.
One more question, please.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to just say something to the point you raised about exploitation.
Yeah.
And I alluded to that in my at some point during this discussion, that exploitation, unfortunately, is quite high in the creative industry and in other industries in Africa as a whole, but yes, in Nigeria. So I would say, it's up to you also and your legal team to do the right thing. We have to have an ethical approach to the way we work. It's so important. So there's something called the work for hire, right? So if you engage this lady and she's got an amazing voice, she's in the interiors. Look, there's no right or wrong way. You can commission her for something called a work for hire, meaning she's producing. If she's a songwriter as well as a singer, she sings and she writes this track, and you give her a one-off payment, and it's documented. It's called a work for hire.
Yeah, sorry, I said, let's assume this is a very, sorry, the word illiterate from the
No,
interiors.
it's fine.
So how do
There's
you
no
manage?
question.
How do you manage?
You, as I said, you have to be
Pay her.
upfront with
Pay
the
her off.
person.
Yeah, just you pay her
But-
and
But document it.
let it be documented.
And if you are doing the right thing, because I also kind of try and bring my sports background to this as well. Speak to the guardian. If it's an underage person, does she have a guardian, a parent,
Yeah.
a cousin? And Anita, bring your elder cousin. Let us sit together and talk. Please, that's the right thing. So I know this is maybe a scenario for you, but
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah, let's do it.
It's
So
not
let
a
me just give you
scenario.
something. Yeah, for the second question, because
Yeah.
talking about work for hire, the fact that the work for hire does not mean that the person has assigned all the rights. So that's why I talk about Q sheets. So that Q sheet is where you're going to write the names of everybody that's contributed to that work musically. Okay, this girl, she's fine, we know she's not really knowledgeable on the business side of music, but she wrote on this song. Make sure she has her credit. At the same time, if on the music side, a lot called music registration with PROs and everything, that will be very, very technical. But the very, very big is make sure that her name is on that Q sheet.
Yeah.
So when we want to now take it up and want to make sure that she gets her royalties, we on the music business end, the supervisors, licensing professional, we know how to get the royalties. But your own work as the filmmaker or the animator in this sense is to make sure that that Q sheet is properly filled with her name. Because this industry is a circle. It's a circle.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. All right, my question is, I don't know who it's going to be for, but I have one special one for the Maven guy, Unique, right? My name is Ayodele Elegba. I run Spoof Animation Studios. So my question, I think it's in twofold. The first one is, if, for example, I'm working on an animation movie or series, and I want to use maybe some of Maven Records, maybe instrumentals or even the soundtrack and all that, how do I go about it? That's one. Then secondly, for example, we reach out to maybe Clem, for example, and say, look, Clem, we are doing this movie and we want you to freestyle on it and do the score and everything, but you have the right to still sell the music. Do I still pay you for being part of that film, since you'll be making money from the audio anyway, and you do a killer job, on that? So those are my two questions. I think, is it clear?
Yeah, I think it's clear for my phone.
Yeah. You want to go first? Okay. We get variations of this question all of the time, and
Yes, and who owns the
Copyright.
copyright? Yes.
okay. So the question of who owns the copyright is, the answer to that question is that everything is up for negotiation. Every single thing. So you approach a producer to create something, all right? So there are two things involved. You are paying for that person's skill and time. Now, the product, what comes out of that engagement, the person that paid for it, in theory, owns the master recording, but the producer still owns the composition. So you can't say that because you own the rights to this, I'm not going to pay you for the service that you offered. I'm not saying you can, but it's not the right or ideal thing to do. That person should be paid for their time and for their effort. It's like saying that I'm thinking of the parallel, but basically there are two separate things, and they should be negotiated for as two separate things. So by default. By default, so let's assume that you pay me to create music for your film, and then that film goes to a streaming platform. Now, whatever conversation you have with the streaming platform, I have no business there.
Okay.
That conversation is between you and that streaming platform. They pay you. I have no legal rights. I have no legal claim to that money. But you see, if you take that music to a streaming platform, the streaming platform is going to want to know who owns the master recording. They are going to want to know who wrote the music, so that they know what percentage of what royalty goes where, because they are kind of required by law to do that. So if you now have a conversation with me and say, okay, so I want to buy these rights off you, and there's an agreement, and you buy the rights of me, which would be silly for me to. Let's assume that it happens. You can now then go to the streaming platform and say, okay, I own these rights. These rights, this and this and this have been assigned to me by so and so. So if that happens now and you take it to a streaming platform, I no longer have in quotes a legal claim to it, because I have assigned it to you. But by default, if we never sign an agreement and I hear that music on Apple Music or Spotify, I can literally pick up my phone or my laptop and send an email to whatever streaming platform and tell them that, oh, there has been an infringement.
But wait, sorry, I think the lawyer should talk, because
Let me clarify.
he's on work for hire now.
Let me clarify.
Yeah, please clarify.
So, okay, now,
No,
when you want to use music in an animation project, you want to obtain a license. We have at least 6 different types of license. So it's very difficult for you to tell me that you want to get all the license, then that means you are paying more money. So now the most important license is the synchronization license. So the whole idea of synchronization license is, as your movie project is going, music is being played with the visual project. So there is dialogue and there is music being played alongside. So for you to have that use, you have to pay for the synchronization license. They also have what we call the master use license. So in a typical license document, they use the word master use and synchronization license agreements.
Okay.
So meaning that you want to make use of that master recording, and at the same time you want to use it to sync with your visual project. I think that's clear, right?
Yes.
So now in a situation whereby you want to now exploit this particular master recording by releasing it on a soundtrack album
Yes.
and be able to exploit it. So it's going to be properly defined in that contract that, oh, the usage is not just sync purpose alone. The master use will be included in a compilation album.
Yes.
So once that is covered, you can now proceed to exploit and get royalties. So once you're not working with a streaming platform, what the streaming platform is going to do is to ask you who is the master owner. So if you see that small icon P in a circle, you can now post, let's say for example, spoof animation. So that means you are the master recording owner. So that means everything that comes to the master side, that is your money. So Jacob was trying to now talk about the other side of the business, that's the musical composition. That particular side, as a master owner, it will be very, very difficult for you to exploit it. Why? Because the Copyright Act or the copyright laws are pro-authors. That means pro-creatives. They want creatives.
Sorry, but he's working under a hired contract.
Yes, the hired contract covers the master side. So they work for hire, you cannot say they also cover the composition side.
So I can still do the compilation of the album, right?
Yes, I'm still enjoying
because my point is that he would never have made that soundtrack if he was not inspired by my film. No, that's the truth now, because maybe there's a scene where Chikwemeka is crying, and in his music he puts Chikwemeka can die, yo. You know, just I won't do that, but you get what I mean. So he's being inspired by my film. So how does he now have the total ownership of that music? Because we probably
I totally get this point.
I don't have total ownership.
But he said he writes Apple and then he'll shut me down.
The contract does not cover master use. So the contract just cover synchronization license. That means you want to use it alongside the visual parts. So that means what he's expecting is, I just tuned in my television and I see that, okay, my song is being used alongside visual projects. But when you go an extra mile to now create a soundtrack album to make profit and it's not covered for in the contract.
So let me ask a more direct question, a practical question. So I think this goes to Unique also.
Okay.
I'm working on a project, okay, and really I love a lot of the Marvel and Maven and Don Jazzy mix and all that. And is there a way of collaborating with you guys, you know, whereby because I know Maven is like an international company now, you know, you guys are signed. I can't someone like me can't pay, you know, all those big dollars. Are you guys open to collaboration whereby you say, okay, we want to be part of this project, you know, and then probably we'll share the music royalties or something where the music now comes out in Apple, we can now both share the...
Okay, yes, so I would say we are open to every form of partnership. In fact, the licensing department is under the partnership department.
Okay.
So every now and then we are receiving different proposals. We received a similar one. I cannot really reveal the details yet because I'm under an NDA for that. So we are open to it, but most times, and I always advise this, make sure that from your own end, you've done your background check and everything. You know the kind of work you want already. And don't expect us to give you the big songs if the budget does not meet it. This is me being open here. Because so that is some people come like, oh, that song that you have that's number one on your catalog, that is the biggest song in Nigeria. It's that one I want. They will tell the price and the next thing, you don't hear anything again.
So would I pay lesser if I'm probably going maybe a old one, this cool song? Would that be cheaper?
Okay, it may be cheaper. It may be cheaper. It may not be cheaper because prior to talking about this, we talked about the fact that there are some songs that are no-go areas. Why? Because a Waniko song, for example, may have about 5 other guys involved. So it may not only be the person, but by only hear Waniko's voice, you know, we have a producer that may not be a Don Jazzy. We have the songwriter that may not be in the band or someone that was in Maven back then or Mohit back then. So to a large extent, when we talk about this collaboration, people that want to collaborate, but at the same time, on your own end, you need to have maybe say a music supervisor or someone that can always advise you that, okay, you want to have this partnership with these guys, come from this angle, create your marketing plan and everything. So when you are discussing, it's not like it's not a parasitical relationship. You know what you are doing. You have your arsenal ready. We have our own. You are coming to collaborate and can give a very valuable project. But when they say, no, I just want them to just do everything music. To a large extent, it may not be beneficial to you. It will just be an opportunity for us to push our catalog up.
Thank you.
So, but if you want to be a beneficial relationship for both parties, you sit down and picture what you want to do, then you come with a partnership proposal, and we're sure to act on it.
So before we hand off on licensing, can I ask you this?
Yes, please.
Okay, please, we're not talking about your quotes. I'm not talking. And he said something, so that's prompted something. He talked about, no, let me just go on that licensing.
Okay.
For instance, Celine Dion, I don't know, Celine Dion. She was the one that sang My Heart Will Always Go On. Yeah, first time I watched Titanic, that was the soundtrack, right? But from just that soundtrack, I made a full script, a full story on my own. Now, if I watch a movie like Titanic and the title was My Heart Will Always Go On, and I used just the soundtrack to now write my own story as a movie, into a movie, and I title it My Heart Will Always Go On. Would that be like copying what Celine Dion translated into a song, while I translated the same concept into a movie? And at the end of the day, would I be copying what she has done, or would that be an original movie concept from me?
So if I get it correctly.
Do you understand what?
Yeah, let me confirm we're on the same page now. So,
Okay.
Celine Dion, she released the song already, My Heart Goes On. Are you doing anything with the lyrics? Are you tapping with the lyrics? Are you reciting the lyrics in the movie project?
No, I just copied the stuff, the lyrics in the song. I will not translate it into a movie. I will produce it as a movie. And the whole movie concept will still be like, okay, somebody left somebody and the heart still, she lives on and all of that. It's just like.
So it's the concept of the song you are using to make it film.
Yes.
But you are not picking our lyrics. You are
No,
not
You're not touching our song.
So
You're not touching the instrumental.
No, not the instrumental.
it's just the
but
concept
story.
inspired by the song.
Yes.
My heart will always go on.
Yes.
Yeah,
I will not act it as
it's
a
fine.
movie.
It becomes it's not even a derivative work actually, because
Yeah,
it's not a derivative work. So that means you are just creating a new work. So
Yes,
we have to
everybody
inspire
is-
awareness. Maybe because I'm putting up purple today, I can like, okay, purple, I may just create something. So it does not mean that the person that actually chose purple as a color owns the idea. So you can create something out of it. But as long as you are not touching the lyrics.
No, not the lyrics.
Because you are not touching anything that has to do with the sound recording.
Yeah, it's just the
not even the
concept.
artwork. So if it's just the concept,
It's
you
just
are
the
good to
concept,
go.
it's
But once you go and touch everything music.
No, that's
so many songs.
Yes, so be inspired, please. Be inspired.
Yeah.
We have touch our song, pay our money.
Yeah, exactly.
We touch our song, pay our money. So,
All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a fantastic session.
So I'm coming back for you. And I want to take the big clients. So it's like,
All right, thank you so much. Yes, we take a picture.